Hello, Jennifer here from Sea Lemon. Plaid recently sent me two of their Apple Barrel multi-surface paint pen packs to try out over on my Instagram, but I thought it would be fun to share the process and my first impressions with you here on YouTube. Apple Barrel is mostly known for their acrylic paint, and I believe this is their first paint pen ever, so it's a fairly new product. From my past experience, paint pens can be kind of tricky, so I'm really curious to see how these do. You might remember I made a video a few years ago about my favorite opaque pens, and I am planning on adding these to my stash of favorites. That video also has some tips in case you're new to opaque pens, linked down below if you want to check it out. A 12 pack is about $18, which comes out to about $1.50 a pen, which isn't too bad. There is a neon colors pack and a basic colors pack. They are fine tip, but to be honest, I think it's more of like a round medium tip, but can make fine lines. The paint is opaque, water-based, non-toxic, and can work on a variety of different surfaces. And it looks like each pack comes with 2 white and 2 black pens, which I do appreciate because I use those colors the most, and I have to buy multiples of those when I'm usually using a paint pen in a project. As with every paint pen, you have to activate it before use. So with the cap on, shake it and press the tip down until the ink comes out. And you do want to make sure to shake it with the cap on, otherwise you'll have splatters of paint go onto your project. And I'm sure this goes without saying, but it's very important to put the cap back on when you're not using the pen because the paint can dry on the tip and ruin it. Because these are multi-surface, I want to test these out on glass. I first cleaned the surface of this jar with rubbing alcohol to remove any oils and smudges, and I'm trying a couple of the neon pens and a couple of the basic colors. One thing I learned about paint pens is that you don't have to press hard for the paint to come out. You want to draw with light pressure so that it comes out smoothly and kind of glides out onto the surface. And that should prevent streaks and little splatters on the edges of your lines. To make the paint even more opaque, you might want to try a second layer, and I found it gave a smoother finish if I let the first layer of paint dry before putting on the second. I think these paint pens would be great for making art with a lot of line work or outlines or adding fine details to existing artwork, such as this painted notebook. You might remember this from a past video. I used all acrylic paint to make over this wire-bound notebook a while ago. I think using these pens to make some of the fine details on this art would be easier versus a small paintbrush. I even touched up some of the areas where the paint went through the tape that I had on it, so they can be used to touch up things as well. Every paint pen I've ever tried has some kind of inconsistency with the flow of the paint, and I realized I can't treat it like a pen. It has to be treated more like a paintbrush. So throughout your project, you'll have to shake the pen and then press the tip down to reload your pen, similar to a paintbrush when it runs out of paint. You have to reload the brush. I'll be honest, these pens really grew on me. The more I used them, the better the ink flowed, and I really liked the neon, especially the neon orange and the yellow. They were just like super bright, almost like an opaque highlighter. Over on Instagram, someone asked if they were rub and wash proof. So I did do some testing on it. Honestly, really impressed by how scratch resistant it is. I was really scratching this thing and nothing was coming off. But when I put water on it, it did flake off a little. So I think it got underneath the thin paint lines. So even though this is multi-surface, just to be safe, I would put some kind of varnish or sealant on top of a smooth surface. If I were using these on a wood surface or a really porous surface, I would definitely seal that before using these. Speaking of varnish and sealant, I'm definitely doing like my own little crash course of figuring out what kind to use. There's so many different kinds out there, so that's something I'm going to test out in my next video with my last pencil case. If you have any tips to share or experience, I would love to read them in the comments below. Big thanks to my studio support patrons and members. Thank you for supporting my channel, and if you're interested, check out the links below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!